Hi fellow YouTubers, this is Al from Roof.net, and I'm here with the second review of the Metabones Speedbooster adapter review. And the first review, I only had a chance to do a few test snaps, and they're up on the website and you can see them all. But I promised that in the second review I would show a little bit of the vignetting that I'm experiencing with this adapter. It seems to be one of the only drawbacks, really. It's not really how you use the deck, but this is just, I needed something to focus on for this test. And I have my 70-200 Canon L lens on my NEX6, and the idea is that I will try and steady this camera so you can see what's actually going on while I change the settings on the NEX6. There we go. Now I've got the NEX6 set to manual, and I have it set to ISO 100, and now obviously it's going to be a little bit, how should I put it, it's not going to be an accurate representation to really show what this adapter really can do. This is only to show how much the vignetting changes when you start zooming, and what happens to the actual vignetting that I'm talking about once you start changing those f-stops. Now with the speed booster on the NEX6 with the 70-200, it goes from a f2.8 to actually becoming an f2. So let me put it down here. Put it some sort of reasonable amount of light. 1/15 of a second. Now this is not really realistic in terms of actually shooting, and obviously you're going to have more light going outside, shooting at normal things outside. This is only to show you what's going to happen in the corners, the vignetting. So I'm going to make this display as clear as I can. I'm at 70mm now, and yes, the f2, 1/15. Like you can see, there's already quite a bit of vignetting. But have a look at it once I start zooming in. I'm at 100, 135, and at 200. So it does change quite a bit. Now, if I started changing the amount of light using the shutter speed, obviously this would go up and down as well. So this, again, this is only to show you how the vignetting is changing once you start zooming. Zoom range first, and this is at f2. Alright, let's go back out to 70, and let's go to f2.8. This is the original lowest f-stop of the lens. I'm just going to give us a little more light, bring this down to 1/10 of a second. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing, and you should see this changing as well. 100, 135, and 200. So basically, the further in you get, the more vignetting you get. May not be that much of a surprise to anyone, but there it is. Back out again. I'm just going to do this for f4 and f5.6 as well. Let's go to right, 1/4 of a second. Again, this is f4, 1/4 of a second shutter speed at 70mm. It's 100, 135, 200. It's not that bad anymore. Gonna go back out to 70 again, and put this up to 5.6. Give it a little more light. 70mm. f5.6, half a second shutter speed. 70mm, now at 100, 135, 200mm. Oh, there we go. So obviously there's quite a bit of vignetting. Still, it's pretty easy to get rid of once you're in Lightroom or Aperture, Photoshop, whatever it is that you decided on for your post-production. But it is worth taking into account if you expect to use the 70-200 as your main lens. Up next is going to be the 135mm Canon f2 L lens, and I'm going to try and do the same thing. The camera is set to manual. It's a fixed white balance, sentence light, and I'm just gonna go back out here. And I'm just gonna take away most of what's popped up in this display. Here we go. Now this, like I mentioned before, is an f2 lens with the speed booster on it. It basically becomes an f 1.4. You can see that on it. You should be able to see the vignetting on the corners here as well, just as with the previous lens. Turning it back up a little bit again. Now obviously going outside when there's plenty of light, this becomes less of an issue here. So unless you're shooting indoors or in low light conditions, you shouldn't see it too bad. But that having been said, this is obviously meant to increase your aperture, so this is basically so you're able to shoot low light conditions. So in the end, chances are you bought this so you'll be able to do so, and that also means that you will be seeing some vignetting. Let me just go up further here to 2.8. Still, it's not too bad. No lighting. See there. Go up further. f4. 1/10 of a second. Again, obviously this is a very unscientific way of doing it. It's just to give some sort of idea of how much will this change as you go up with a sort of similar amount of light. Let's bump this back up to 5.6. And as you can see, I mean, it's still there. So this is just to give you an idea of how this will influence your 135mm f2 Canon L lens. Next up is the non-L lens, the Canon 40mm prime lens. It's in f2.8, and let me just pop that on and we'll see if this is an issue with the wider angles as well. Okay, so here we are with the Canon EF 40mm prime lens. It's one of those cheap lenses that easy to get your hands on without sort of taking away half your milk money. f2.8, and on the speed booster, as you can see here, it becomes a f2 lens. I'm not really seeing that much vignetting with this lens at all. Compared to the other lenses, I mean, there's really nothing there. Maybe a slight vignetting, maybe a little bit. It's very contained, I think, compared. And this is at f2.0. Let's start going up a little bit. f2.8. Again, this is the original f-stop of this prime lens. Turning down the light a little bit. Okay, so if we're seeing vignetting here, it's certainly very smooth from the edges into the middle. So yes, it's there, but it's not as apparent, and any sort of extra light and it will be blown off the picture, like you can see here. Okay, let's go further up. f4. Turning up the light a little bit. That's to say the shutter speed. Still, it's looking alright. A little bit, especially in the bottom, it seems. Go further up a bit. 5.6 as with the other lenses. And again, that is a silly amount of light, but just to see, once we go back down again, where will it pop in first? And it does seem like, maybe it's just me, but it seems like I'm seeing more at the bottom. It may just be my simple setup here. Right, so there you have it. The speed booster does introduce quite a bit of vignetting on my two best lenses, unfortunately. But again, this is easily fixable in whatever post-production software that you are using. Okay, let me just include a couple of straight conversions from RAW to JPEG without any retouching. You will be able to see how much of the vignetting is still visible before you actually enter into any sort of post-production. So it should give you an idea of how much work you can anticipate using the speed adapter. Alright, thank you for watching. It's been Al from Arufa.net. Check out the website for updates. Maybe use the RSS feed to keep in touch. Leave me any comments below, or any questions you might have, or comments as to how I can maybe do this a little more scientific. As you can see, it's pretty basic here. Let me know any comments you might have. Thank you for watching.